Welcome to a discussion on the role, the history, the legacy, the limitations, and the future of Black Americans in U.S. neurology and in academic medicine. This is a discussion between myself, Tom Carmichael, Chair of Neurology at UCLA, and Dr. Charles Flippen, Vice Chair of Neurology, Associate Dean at UCLA, and a leader in American neurology, on some of the important questions in people of color and their role in neurology and medicine in the U.S. And so I'll start off with this dialogue. Dr. Flippen, you've been a faculty at many institutions. You've been a leader in neurology in the department, associate dean in the dean's office, and a leader in the American Academy of Neurology. What do you see as the current state of people of color in U.S. neurology and in medicine?
Thank you, Tom, for hosting this conversation. When we look at the current state, I think the objective data would indicate we're stagnant. There hasn't been a significant change in the percentage of faculty from underrepresented groups in medicine, in academic medicine writ large, or in neurology, probably over the past 20, 30 years. The challenge has been a matter of pipeline. Though we have seen an increase in the percentage of students, medical students from underrepresented groups, we don't see that translating within neurology to residents in training, and then by extension, faculty members. So there's a lot of work to be done.
It's really disappointing to hear that. We have so much energy and focus, and to understand that it's stagnating is really distressing. It brings us to the limitations, and so you've brought one up, pipeline, and you've done a lot of work there, which we'll ask about in a bit. What are some of the other limitations that you see in overcoming that stagnation? Well,
I think we can look at the current environment and sort of divide things up to pre-pandemic, George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, and then post. Pre those events, really there was a lack of urgency there, and though there was an acknowledgement of the lack of representation within neurology, within medicine in general, historically, I think if you look from institution to institution, you would see periods of activity, usually about 3 or 4 years in duration, and then a recession back to baseline as other things became more prominent, other issues. I think in the wake of the pandemic, as we emerge from pandemic, and the unfortunate murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement, there's renewed energy, so there's a lot of energy now. What we have to look toward and be vigilant about is decay of that energy that we've seen historically in past efforts. And so it's really a matter of how do we sustain the energy that has been created by these events as far as equity, diversity, and inclusion are concerned.
Those are just such great points. Persistence is so hard when there's so many competing things to do. One of the ways we've tackled that, I'm going off script here because it's so interesting to talk about, is we've tried to create DEI committees and DEI representatives in departments as a way of representing the effort and perhaps helping with that persistence. Do you see that as working? Does that keep us persistent and focused?
I think that those efforts are helpful and necessary. The devil is in the details. And so how are those efforts supported? And are they being placed into the DNA, the standard operating procedures of academic departments? When they are balkanized, it's easy for them to lose the focus and the energy. So it's a matter of implementation. And getting DEI not as something separate, but as something that is within the DNA of a department. And I think that is where you see success when that happens. You see less success or no movement when it's a set aside.
Yeah, so you just don't stand a committee up. It has to be completely cross-cutting across
Yes.
the department's functions. That's a great point. One question is this just all about money? That American neurology is not a huge money-making specialty, and across the country, academic medical centers are struggling a bit in terms of finances. Is it just about money in terms of trying to integrate faculty and providing resources for additional recruitments or for enhancing the recruitments we have, or is it not? Or are there other things that are in play here?
Well, it's not all about money, but money is a significant factor. So you can see, if you look at academic medicine, there are moments in history where lots of money have been thrown at things and you haven't seen much in the way of results. It's the same thing with DEI efforts. There has to be a sweat equity component to DEI. So it's not a matter of just hiring people and increasing numbers. If that happens without building the structures that will allow people to flourish in their careers, feel a part of the community, then the money is not going to be well spent.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean critically looking at our processes of recruitment, the mentorship that occurs, faculty culture. Those things have to be aligned and to benefit faculty, young faculty from underrepresented groups in medicine, so that they have the environment in which they will be successful. So that's more than just money. But by extension, to do those things well, to mentor and sponsor junior faculty, and by mentoring I mean scientifically, career-wise, and socially, that takes time. And faculty, time is a valuable commodity, and that has to be compensated in some way, that effort. So money is part of the equation and is an essential part of the equation. I think about the things that we've done here at UCLA in the last couple of years. We have a mentoring program in which the mentors, their time is paid to put toward the junior faculty, so that they get the type of mentorship that is going to really help them advance their careers. That's the type of investment that has to occur. So it's the sweat equity, but it's also money that has to be part of the equation.
Dr. Flippen, you've been very active in developing a pipeline that really helps to boost neurology interest very early on, and maybe interest to academic medicine, as you'll describe. This kind of fits into the theme of efforts that don't necessarily automatically mean a financial commitment. Can you describe some of your pipeline efforts and how others might conceive of that in their area?
Okay. Well, I think my personal story may be a bit unique just by virtue of the community involvement that I have always had throughout my career. Starting with engagement with high school students, we have hosted for several years here a partnership program with a program called Young Black Scholars that's run by 100 Black Men of Los Angeles, of which I'm a member of that organization. And the School of Medicine here at UCLA has been great partners in that. And that's spending a day giving middle and high school students from largely LA public schools an opportunity to come on campus, hear young physicians, resident trainees, junior faculty talk about their specialties to give them a window into what the possibilities are of a career in medicine. Then from a medical student perspective, being present with the Student National Medical Association and Latino Medical Student Association, and so attending their events as a faculty member, being able to sort of come down off of the ivory tower and really talk to them about what it's like to be an academic neurologist. Much like myself, many of them don't really know much about the field of neurology. I didn't enter in medical school, and it was only by talking to faculty members that it became much more salient and approachable to me because we were having not structured rounding conversations, but just conversations about what life is like, as an academic and being a neurologist. So I think that at that level, garnering interest in our specialty, because unfortunately only about 2% of medical school graduates on an annual basis choose neurology as a career. So we're already talking about low numbers, and then when you're talking about recruiting students from underrepresented groups in medicine, you have to really be intentional and present. And what we want to do is we want to break barriers. We want to decrease the size of hurdles in being interested in getting into our specialty. And then as now a former residency program director, it's a matter of engaging applicants, letting them know that what the opportunities are at your particular institution with regard to the types of patients that they'll be able to take care of, the mentorship that is available in building a career, understanding that that's an intentional process and that we're going to help them with it. And then having an environment within the program and the department where they feel welcome and at home. Some of that will come with early success, because if you build critical mass and people can project themselves in the people that they see ahead of them, either as residents, fellows, or faculty, that will attract more people from underrepresented groups into the field.
Yeah, an approachable and welcoming pathway, and then seeing exemplars ahead of them. Yeah. What do you see as some of the successes? We've talked about a lot of limitations, and they are so profound. Are there successes that we can take stock in and build upon in Black Americans in U.S. neurology or in medicine?
Well, I think that if you look at neurology, American neurology, we can look at some of our specialty organizations as being very intentional in working to attract young people in general, but in particular young people from underrepresented groups to our specialty. And the American Academy of Neurology, I think, has done a great job of that to date with the leadership programs that they have instituted over the past several years, where you are, again, demystifying and decreasing the barriers and hurdles to get involved with the specialty, and people seeing the broad choices that are available within neurology. The nervous system touches everything in the human body, so by extension, there are a lot of areas to concentrate in within neurology. And I think that community engagement on the part of the AAN, the support of students and residents by the AAN, and by extension faculty opportunities, junior faculty opportunities, particularly for people from underrepresented groups in medicine, has really been helpful in broadening the pipeline into neurology. I think looking at our local efforts, sponsored clerkship for students from underrepresented groups, I think has been valuable in our recruitment efforts for a residency program. Our presence at regional SNMA conferences, engagement with students here on campus has also, I think, been beneficial to us in our recruitment efforts. When we look at other organizations, the ANA, American Neurological Association, is now starting to really ramp up its efforts in DEI, which I think will be very helpful in building the academic pipeline for students from and residents from underrepresented groups entering academic neurology. So I think that those are some of the successes. I'm a little reluctant to use the word success because that implies that we have arrived someplace. I think we're still on the journey, but we're much further down the road in 2023 than we were in, say, 2018, 2017.
Yeah, those are good points. We have touch points in which we've had some measurable change, but we may not have had successes as we think about that term. One final question to kind of sum things up that's kind of interesting to think about, and one is we were intending this discussion and dialogue for Black History Month for February. Calendaring was difficult, so you and I finally get together and it's just after February, but it's also an opportunity to think that this is not just something that ends with a special recognition month. And so as you think about moving forward, what are the messages that you feel are important for year-round understandings of Black neurology, of Black Americans in U.S. medicine, and for the kind of things that you've described that kind of help bring this forward? How do we project into the other 11 months?
Well, I think you bring up a very good point, Tom, and really, I always look at Black History Month with mixed feelings. I think it's always good to take time to recognize and acknowledge those who've gone before you, celebrate their achievements and successes, and acknowledge that we stand on the shoulders of many people who came before us. That being stated, it is also a bit disheartening that this is not, we don't have just history and American history, of which everyone who's here has contributed in some shape, form, or fashion. And that we have yet to be able to figure out how to acknowledge the contributions of everyone who's helped to build this country in a way that interweaves those stories. And it's a messy story, but it's one that we can learn from. As far as how do we make these efforts go forward, again, it's a matter of first building equity of opportunity. And that means looking at our processes. Again, recruitment, resources available for retention, intentional mentoring. Those are the things that we should be building for everyone, but it's vitally important for young faculty who are coming from underrepresented groups because the current state of affairs is not by accident. It's because there are some very concrete structural impediments to people entering our specialty and entering academic neurology. And we need to look at those critically and change them. And I know we've already started doing some of those things within our department, which is why I think we're making the progress that we've had to date with regard to having a department that really reflects the community of Los Angeles. And so, it's a matter of being intentional. So you can intentionally have a month, but you can also intentionally map out a plan that goes beyond that month, that goes over years of how you're going to transform the structures and the culture of your organization so that everyone has the opportunity to be successful.
Yeah, that's a great response. It takes us to the end of our time, but a dialogue doesn't end here.
No.
You and I have these discussions all the time. I really look forward to them. And I imagine others in academic medicine and in U.S. neurology will have them as well. These are great things to think about as these discussions roll forward.
Yes, and I'd like to thank you again, Tom, for taking the time to have this conversation. I think that the future is bright, but again, it's a matter of being intentional. And right now, I feel really good about the way things are going.
Great, thank you.